When Apple introduced the M4 MacBook Air, I described it as a mini MacBook Pro for good reason. It held up impressively in real-world software development tasks, handling the load far better than anyone expected from something branded Air. Now, fast forward to the M4 MacBook Air, and things are even more interesting. It not only comes with a new, faster chip, but now supports up to 32 gigabytes of unified memory. For anyone serious about development, coding, or any form of heavy multitasking, this upgrade could be a total game changer. I've been using both the 16 gigabytes and 32 gigabytes models of the M4 MacBook Air side by side for several weeks now. The 16 gigabytes variant is excellent for many professional workflows, but the 32 gigabytes version really steps it up. Starting at under $1,000 for the 16 gigabytes model and about $1,599 for the 32 gigabytes upgrade, it becomes a real decision point if you're investing in a machine that could easily be your daily driver. To find out how much of a difference the 32 gigabytes upgrade makes, I put both models through rigorous developer tasks. I ran virtual machines, software builds, and multiple programming environments simultaneously to create a realistic, if intense, developer workload. If you're thinking of choosing between the two, the insights here will help you decide. Running Windows 11 on Parallels allocated 8 gigabytes of memory and 4 CPU cores showed just how capable these machines can be. Applications opened fast, browser speeds were nearly instant, and the system remained responsive even with multiple heavy apps running in the background. I also spun up a fresh Ubuntu Linux virtual machine. Despite being lightweight, having two virtual environments running at the same time is a brutal memory stress test for any laptop. While the M4 MacBook Air offers Thunderbolt 4 ports and fast SSD storage, storage can still become a bottleneck if you're loading up a ton of virtual environments. On the base model, I had only about 26 gigabytes free after installing all necessary tools and systems. If you're serious about development, I recommend starting with at least the 512 gigabytes storage version. Opening Firefox on Ubuntu gave me my first subtle hints of difference. While the 16 gigabytes model handled the load fine, the 32 gigabytes variant felt snappier, especially as more apps began stacking up. Watching how memory usage climbed was fascinating. The 16 gigabytes MacBook Air started brushing against its limits faster, pushing swap usage to about 1 gigabyte even before the heavy coding tasks began, while the 32 gigabytes machine cruised along comfortably with ample headroom. Then I opened Visual Studio Code via terminal on both machines simultaneously. Initially, the 16 gigabytes model surprised me by opening the editor a fraction faster, but subsequent openings consistently favored the 32 gigabytes variant. However, the difference was negligible, mere seconds. Diving deeper, I noticed that as we pushed the machines with more apps, background tasks, and browser tabs, the 16 gigabytes machine began showing signs of strain. Next, I launched Xcode. As expected, the 32 gigabytes version loaded projects and ran simulators faster. On the 16 gigabytes model, Xcode was functional, but not as fluid once everything stacked up. When I created a new project, the difference in responsiveness became even more apparent. The 32 gigabytes MacBook Air simply gave a smoother experience. While the 16 gigabytes still performed admirably, it became clear that heavy multitasking could tip it into slower territory. To simulate mobile development workflows, I deployed an app built to the iOS simulator. The 16 gigabytes model shockingly launched the app first in one instance, but during repeated tests, the 32 gigabytes machine consistently outperformed. Under heavy memory pressure, the 16 gigabytes Air began dipping into swap memory far more heavily, exceeding 4 gigabytes at times, compared to under 1 gigabyte on the 32 gigabytes model. That difference mattered. It caused real-world slowdowns, lag when switching between apps, and delayed loading times. After lightening the system load by shutting down the Linux and Windows virtual machines, both laptops became a lot more responsive. The 16 gigabytes model was using about 9 gigabytes of RAM, and the 32 gigabytes variant only about 6 gigabytes, with both having minimal swap usage. With the system stabilized, I ran a sorting algorithm benchmark written in C++. In a single-core quick sort of 10 million integers, both machines performed nearly identically. The 16 gigabytes Air completed it in about 2 minutes and 34 seconds, and the 32 gigabytes version in about 2 minutes and 33 seconds. No real advantage here because the RAM size didn't play a significant role. It was purely about CPU horsepower, and the M4 chip is the same across both configurations. However, when I shifted to multi-core tasks, like running a merge sort on a billion integers, memory management began to make a difference. During this more complex operation, the 32 gigabytes model held its performance better under stress. The system juggled the task with less swapping, meaning fewer interruptions and smoother multitasking while the operation was underway. This test highlighted that for basic or even moderately heavy tasks, the 16 gigabytes MacBook Air can absolutely get the job done. It can run virtual machines, software builds, heavy browser sessions, and still feel decently snappy. But when you're pushing the limits, multiple VMs, several simultaneous coding environments, rendering and building apps, the 32 gigabytes upgrade provides a crucial advantage. It ensures a buffer against memory pressure, faster load times under heavy conditions, and better overall responsiveness when everything is running at once. Beyond the numbers, the experience of using the 32 gigabytes model felt significantly better. It was a smoother, more effortless ride, and in a professional environment where time equals money, that difference can matter a lot. If you're using your machine primarily for web browsing, basic coding, or office tasks, the 16 gigabytes will likely be fine. If you're venturing into full-stack development, machine learning, game development, or running multiple VMs and simulators, going with the 32 gigabytes configuration could save you countless headaches down the line. I also want to point out that because the M4 chip includes fantastic energy management and efficiency, even under high load, the fans barely kicked in and the system temperature remained surprisingly manageable. Battery life stayed solid across both models, even when running heavy operations. It's a testament to how mature Apple Silicon has become. Storage speed, too, is outstanding. File transfers with external drives over Thunderbolt 4 were incredibly fast. Whether backing up virtual machines or moving large project files, the MacBook Air never became a bottleneck. Just make sure you pick enough internal storage when you buy, because external drives, while fast, are not a perfect substitute for onboard space during live development work. At the end of the day, the 32 gigabytes M4 MacBook Air feels closer to a MacBook Pro Lite than ever. It's versatile, powerful, incredibly portable, and with the right spec, capable of professional-level workloads. The 16 gigabytes model is no slouch, but if you're investing in a machine for the next 3 to 5 years, paying the premium for 32 gigabytes RAM will offer you peace of mind and a much smoother experience. Choosing between them isn't just about benchmarks. It's about understanding how you use your machine today and what you'll expect from it in the near future. For serious developers, the 32 gigabytes upgrade isn't a luxury, it's an investment. For everyone else, the base 16 gigabytes model still offers outstanding value and performance at a great price.